Well, good evening. It's good to see everyone out tonight. We're blessed in this series of Heroes of Faith from Hebrews 11 to have with us tonight Payton Roth bringing a lesson on Jacob. I love Jacob. It'd be a good lesson, I'm sure. I've been so impressed with all these young men we've had. They've done such an excellent job clear through. If you're a guest, we'll let you know. At the end of the hour, we have a 2-bell system. The little ones are still meeting. First bell kind of lets parents know you can go get your kid, and second bell says, okay, everybody should be back into the room, and then we'll have a brief worship time with everybody at that point. But we love that you're here. We hope you're encouraged by the Word, and that before you leave, maybe you've encouraged one other person this night in something you've said or something you've done. At this time, we'll begin with our song service. Cameron, you want to lead us in that?
The first song we'll be leading today is Hear, O Israel. So me. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one God. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all of thy heart. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all of thy soul. God's Unchanging Hand, number 312 in the book. All right. Number 312 in the book.
Time is filled with swift transition. On earth, unmoved and
Well, hello there. Good evening. Not afternoon, evening. Well, I certainly feel blessed. It's been a little bit since I have last given a lesson, and here's our faith. It's, I think, a really cool topic. We actually get to look at a lot of characters in the Old Testament. I love the Old Testament. So this is great. Now, I do feel a little disadvantaged because the two people who went before me were true men of faith. They were both Isaac. So, but anyway, I think it'll be fine. I'll work with it. I may not be a man of faith, but I can talk about a man of faith. It was kind of interesting as I was thinking about this. Kind of wanted to share this before we started, but we call them heroes of faith. Some of these people mentioned in Hebrews. And when you look at some of the passages in the Old Testament, they don't feel always like heroes of faith. They're deeply flawed. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses. I mean, Moses didn't enter the promised land. He slipped up there. But they're still heroes of faith. Like the Hebrews writer still looks at them and says, these are people to look at. These are witnesses to God's faithfulness. And when you look at those particular moments, even in characters that seem rather, unfaithful, like Lot, for instance, or Jephthah, and he still sees something in them. He sees these moments of faith. That's kind of the key thing that's going to kind of drive our study of Jacob tonight. Jacob has a rather long, complicated life. Just admit it. But he has moments of great faith. And I think we'll see at the end of tonight where his faith leads him to and where it gets him. And where eventually, because of his faith, where it puts his sons and where it puts the rest of the nation. And we kind of live with that legacy, remembering Israel, what they were like, learning from that. So we're going to kind of look at that tonight. So what I want to ask to kind of start is, what is life but struggle? I mean, there's no escaping it. We call it the human experience. That the human experience is suffering. It's a little bit weird thing, but it's like when you try to pretend that life isn't suffering. You try to sort of make something of it and to establish these comforts and these securities, but you always have this sense in the back of your mind that you might lose those. They might go away. They might not last. I think the Ecclesiastes writer had a sense of this. He's like, I may even do these things that might provide some sort of security and benefit, but I still have this aching need in my soul for something else. And even if I do, the people that came after, they may not care. They may waste it and make the world just as evil as it was before. And so there's this sense that life is a struggle and there's no escaping it. And where does that put us? What do we do with that? I really think we don't learn that by just teaching doctrine. Doctrine is important, but I think we learn that from certain lives, these lives of these characters who went through that, who struggled deeply. So that's what I want to think about in regards to Jacob. He's the prime man of struggle. His name literally means like deceiver, supplanter of some sort. He's a guy who struggles with other people constantly. That's who he is. In the narratives of Genesis, I want to keep this in mind kind of as we start to get into this. There's these repeated patterns, okay? And these are going to kind of help frame the story of Jacob as we start to look into it, because what we're going to see is certain ways in which he breaks the pattern. You see, the patriarchs, including Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, were promised a few things, right? They were promised a great nation. They were promised that God would bless them. They were promised a land, okay? And it's funny that those very things are the things they put in jeopardy constantly. They keep leaving the land, the promised land he's given to them. They keep trying to get children by other means. And they end up almost bringing curses on other people. It's such a weird thing. It's like, these are the things he's promising, but these are the exact things they're not trusting him with. And we find some similar things with Jacob. So just keep that in the front of your head. With that in mind, we're going to jump into Jacob. Okay? So I want us to open our Bibles to Genesis 25. We're going to start there tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and read Genesis 25, verses 19 through 26. I'll give you a minute to get there. Now these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham fathered Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Paddan Aram, the sister of Laban, the Aramean, to be his wife. And Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord granted his prayer, and Rebekah his wife conceived. Now the children struggled together within her, and she said, if this is the case, why is this happening to me? So she went to ask of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, 2 peoples from within you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. When her days to give birth were completed, behold, there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red, all his body like a hairy cloak, so they called his name Esau. Afterward, his brother came out with his hand holding Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob, supplanter, deceiver. And Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. Now, this is just a really key, just narrative set. Like, where are we starting with Jacob? And again, it's important to keep the biblical storyline in mind. This new episode in Genesis is quite typical, actually, of the previous patriarch, previous 2, barrenness. That's where it starts. This lack of life. Where is this promised line going to lead to? Okay? With Abraham, the problem was like, how are you going to fulfill these promises? We're still waiting on this line, this descendant. Well, now here's the same problem. I can see Rebecca, she's barren. But then even when she's barren, she's like, oh, I'm a little concerned because there's all this pain or whatever associated with that. I guess more than the normal pain. So it's like, what's going to happen? But they have a son. Now they're told there's going to be some issues there. There's going to be some infighting. Like, it's told ahead of time. This is kind of a nice, like a destiny. Like, you're going to see the conflict between the two, and that's going to really drive this big story. And we're going to see how that works in a minute. But I want us to think about another story as we read this, because what we're going to have is the struggle of 2 brothers. And one brother's going to end up wanting to kill the other brother. Maybe this sounds familiar. Well, if you've read Genesis 4, you go back there, Cain and Abel. You got a conflict of brothers. You got this sort of curse that might be coming. You got this way it affects the world, and then they start to go and leave the land. Like, there's some things going on here, okay? So all this kind of starts, the whole, really, episode here, as we pick up in verse 29. Genesis 25, verse 29. Once, when Jacob was cooking stew, Esau came in from the field, and he was exhausted. Esau said to Jacob, let me eat some of the red stew, for I'm exhausted. Therefore his name was called Edom. Jacob said, sell me your birthright now. Esau said, I'm about to die. What use is a birthright to me? And so he said, swear to me now. So he swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread, lentil stew, and he ate and drank and rose and went his way. Then Esau despised his birthright. The very first episode we hear about Jacob, he's deceiving him. He's like, let me see if I can get something from him. That's not going to be the only time. It's going to keep happening. So we're going to keep looking for that sort of pattern. But you can see how it's already starting. Now go ahead and jump to chapter 27. There's a sort of intermediary chapter here about Isaac's life and some of the things that go on with him. Again, some similar things, but we won't look at that tonight. But go ahead and turn to chapter 27, and let me read verses 18 through 29. So he went into his father and said, my father. And he said, here I am. And he said, who are you, my son? Now, they've set up this whole narrative where the 2 have been chosen, mother and father, and they've set up this plan, okay? Rebecca set up this plan. Jacob, Isaac is told Esau, you're my favorite son. Go and catch some game for me, some hunt. Bring it back to me, cook it for me how I like, and I'm going to bless you, okay? Rebecca hears the whole thing, tells the whole thing to Jacob, says, you go do it, and we can get faster. And just dress like Jacob. We'll put some skin on your hands. We'll make you smell like him, all this stuff. So that's what's happening. So Jacob went into his father and said, my father. He said, well, here I am. And he says, who are you, my son? Jacob said to him, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Now sit up, eat of my game, that your soul may bless me. But Isaac said to his son, how is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? He answered, because the Lord granted me success. Then Isaac said to Jacob, please come near that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau or not. So Jacob went near to Isaac his father, who felt him and said, this voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau's. And he didn't recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. He said, are you really my son Esau? He answered, I am. Then he said, bring it near to me that I may eat of my son's game and bless you. So he brought it near to him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, come near and kiss me, my son. So he came near and kissed him, and Isaac smelled the smell of his garments. You see this progression? Okay, he keeps coming to him, he keeps confirming by one more sense, and he finally smells him after he's gotten drinking. I don't know if he's drunk at this point, but he's drinking. And then he says, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you the dew of heaven, the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let peoples serve you, nations bow down to you. Be lord over your brothers. May your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you. Now, this ought to sound familiar. If you've read Abraham's story, this is the same blessing. It starts off by saying these blessings of the earth, the things they consider so valuable in their time, grain and wine and oil, that's what you're going to have. You're going to have the service of your other siblings. But you're also, blessed is everyone who blesses you and curses everyone who curses you. That's the same thing that was said to Abraham from God. It's repeating this blessing, carrying it on through Jacob. But the means by which Jacob got this wasn't all that great. But that's where it happens. Now, Isaac is intended to bless the one he loves. Rebekah is intended to bless the one she loves. And there's just this conflict already at play. It's like, okay, where is this going to go? And you'll feel multiple times if you actually read back in the narrative a little bit, it's like it keeps mentioning that he listened to his mother. He listened to his mother, okay? So this isn't just him. We kind of see a broader broken family sort of dynamic here. And so you already feel like there's something sincerely wrong with this picture. Isaac's trying to bless Esau, even though God has told him that the younger is going to serve the older, kind of indicated to him, hey, wink, wink, the younger is supposed to be blessed, just like, guess what? You were, even though Ishmael, and the others. But he's not getting it. And then Rebekah jumps in and gets this done. It's just this dynamic that's weird. So that's going to kind of set up everything that comes next, okay? And here's where that leads to. So that whole thing has happened. He's deceived him. He comes in. Esau comes in after and says, okay, I'm here. I brought the sacrifice like you wanted, the meal. I prepared it for you. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, I'm Esau, your son. What? He trembles back and he's like, what do you mean you're Esau? Like, he just came. He's like, oh, that was my brother Jacob? No. And then he's like, do you have a blessing for me? Just one thing you can say? And he says the opposite. In verse 39, behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall your dwelling be, and away from the dew of heaven. Those are the same expressions used of Jacob. Now he's like, oh yeah, here's your blessing. You're away from that. You don't get that. But, by your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from your neck. He's looking ahead for both Jacob and for Esau, that there's going to be this conflict between them. That's already been prophesied once, a few times, when they inquired of God, it was like, okay, there's this struggle. That's going to continue. But one day, he's going to break that yoke. And you sort of wonder how that's going to work out, because what immediately Esau does right after this is he plans to kill him. Now, Rebekah figures out a way to get around this. He's like, okay, let's send him away. Let's pretend like, well, he needs a wife, so he needs to go back to the homeland. So this will get him away from Esau, and that's what they did. But he sort of wonders, like, what's going to happen when they see each other next? So you want to keep that in your mind as we're kind of going. But Jacob leaves. He goes to another place. He goes back to the hometown where they all came from. He's going to get a wife from them there. And so we pick up in chapter 28, and verse 10 through 22. He's on his way, and this is what happens. Now Jacob left Beersheba, and he went towards Haran. And he came to a certain place and stayed there that night, because the sun had set. And taking one of the stones of that place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed. And behold, there was a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached the heavens. And behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and your offspring. Your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad to the west, to the east, to the north, and the south. And in you and your offspring shall all families of the earth be blessed. Now, hold your finger there for a second. Again, this is the same thing he said to Abraham. And Abraham, when he's heard this, you know what he did? He left and went and did just as God told him. Let's see what Jacob does. So he says, behold, I'm with you. I will keep you wherever you go. I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Maybe even more firm than what he said to Abraham. But Jacob awoke from his sleep, said, surely the Lord is in this place. I didn't know it. He said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. So early in the morning, Jacob took the stone that he put under his head, set it up for a pillar, poured oil on top of it. He called the place of that name Bethel, but the name of the city was Luz. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in the way that I go, like he's promised, and will give me bread to eat, clothing to wear, and so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God. And this stone which I have set up for a pillar shall be God's house, and all that you give me, I will give a full tenth to you. You kind of feel a sense that, like, God's being shortchanged here. Like, with the others, it's just been this immediate faith, and it's been God who's promised, I will be your God. You shall be to me my people, or I will be with you. And then Jacob's like, okay, if you do that, well, then I'll give a tenth to you. Well, he's already promising them land and everything that could come with this blessing. Like, he sort of feels like, okay, Jacob, might have some things to learn here. So you're already getting kind of a sense of that, but there's something interesting in this dream. Now, if you don't know how dreams work, dreams in the ancient world are a little bit different than how we think of them. A lot of times we think of them, they're kind of an image into your psyche. They kind of tell you what you're already thinking in your head, but don't know how to express. So some weird things sometimes come together in your dreams. You wake up from a dream one night, you're like, oh, now I understand that thing I was thinking about at school, whatever. Okay, that's all good and well. But in the ancient world, they actually saw dreams as being these things that come from God. Okay, they revealed things about God, and that is typically how they are used in Genesis and in many parts of the Old Testament. That there's this revelation from God through that. God continues to work through dreams, and He's showing Jacob something through that dream, and He shows him this ladder ascending to the top of the heavens. This last time we've had this phrase used, this ascending to the top of the heavens, reaching the heavens, it wasn't a good thing. That was the Tower of Babel. They're trying to reach the heavens, to reach and to build a name for themselves. Just trying to make a place to assert themselves, okay? It's an image of pride and arrogance, rebellion. Here it's the opposite. Instead of it's them reaching up to the heavens, it's God actually coming down. He's offering, like, the thing He's revealing to Jacob here is a reverse of everything that's wrong with the world right now. That God is separate from it. That people are walking in these terrible ways of lying and deception and cheating and violence. And this is sort of a cure to that. He's saying, I'm going to come down. I'm going to make this connection. I'm going to be your God. Through me, I'm going to bless the world. All these sorts of things. He's going to use Jacob to do that. I'm going to give that through Jacob. That's crazy to me. That really is crazy to me. Because again, at this point in the story, I don't see any hardly faith in Jacob. Maybe a sliver, but I don't see it there. I really don't. Not yet. But he says, if God is with me, provides for me, then when I come back, this will be the house of God. I'll tithe to Him. I'll give to Him. Well, we'll kind of see how this happens. So he gets to the place. He comes to the place where he's trying to go. And so in 29:15 through 30, notice what happens here. 29:15 through 30. He sees Rebecca, okay? Or he sees, Rachel. He sees her acting as a shepherd. She's the daughter of Laban, okay? You should remember some of these people from previously. Rebecca came from that, and that was her brother, so see the lineage there. But he gets there, and he sees Rebecca. She acts as a shepherd. He comes and sees that, and the second he sees her, he helps. He actually brings the water out. He waters the sheep, takes care of them all and stuff, and then he's brought back to the house. And his Laban brings him in and is like, you're my bone, you're my flesh. That's also a metaphor that should be familiar. That's what Adam called Eve. There's this kinsman bond. There's this close bond. And he's like, oh, great. He's going to get a wife. He's going to have this close kinsman bond with his family. And he's going to build him up in his faith. And then he's going to come back to the land. Yes, this is what we want. Great. Well, not quite. So notice chapter 29:15 through 30. Now Laban said to Jacob, because you're my kinsman, should you serve me for nothing? I'm just going to help him, around the house. Tell me what your wages shall be. Now, Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah. The name of the younger was Rachel. Now, Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. Now, Jacob loved Rachel. And he said, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter, Rachel. So Laban said, it's better that I give her to you than I should give her to any other man, so stay with me. So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel. It seems like a really long time. And they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, give me my wife that I may go into her, for my time is completed, like I've completed my work. So Laban gathered together all the people of the place and made a feast. But in the evening he took his daughter Leah, brought her to Jacob, and went into her. And Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah to be her servant. And in the morning, behold, it was Leah. I sometimes wonder how this happened, how this was pulled off, but that's what the Bible says. I don't know how exactly rituals of marriage works and whatever. But anyway, behold, it was Leah. And Jacob said to Laban, what is this that you have done to me? Did I not serve with you for Rachel? Why then have you deceived me? Laban said, it's not so done in our country, to give the younger before the first son. So just complete the week of this one, and we'll give you the other also. in return for serving another 7 years. You know, Jacob's sort of getting some things thrown in his face here. I think you can tell. It sounds a little bit familiar. But Jacob did so. He completed her week. Then Laban gave his daughter Rachel to be his wife. And Laban gave his daughter, female servant Bilhah, to his daughter Rachel to be her servant. So Jacob went to Rachel also, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and served Laban for another 7 years. I mentioned that you can kind of spot some similarities, kind of what's going on with Jacob. You notice he wants the younger, but he gets the older. He's deceived. And he has to work 7 more years for it. I mean, you can, like, he deceived his father about the younger, got something nice for him being the younger. Well, now he's tricked out of the younger and given the older, and not the one he wants. So you can kind of see some irony there. But like whatever Jacob did, now he's kind of getting it thrown back in his face. He's almost seeing himself in Laban. And that's going to become a continual pattern. So I want us to pay attention to that. We've seen how he had a dream. God is going to be with him. But now he's with Laban and he's been tricked. So it's the question of like how God is going to be with him. So we want to keep that in our minds as well. But what happens is now that he has both wives, he only loves one, but this initiates this whole series of conflicts. Just to read this section about the wives fighting back and forth is just a wonderful section to read. It tells you that something important about human nature, that there can be fighting between those closest to you. Also, don't marry 2 wives. This doesn't work well. So, but I mean, other than just that, they like are having sons to get his attention. It's like crazy. Now, one of the phrases, she has a son. Now my husband will love me since I have borne him 3 sons. It's like, oh my goodness, this feels awful. It's like, this is what their worth is in. Like, if they can give him sons, then they feel like, but they're like, I think he's sort of being ping-ponged back and forth. Like, Rachel, Leah, but Leah's got the sons, but Rachel I like. It's like, it's just a whole conflict, just partly because of Laban, but partly because of him just wanting the younger son. Even, there might have been some custom involved that he's not supposed to do that. And so, like, this back and forth deception that's kind of landed them in this whole scenario. And they fight for his love. They continue to do so. And it really puts Jacob in a difficult spot. If you'll notice back in 29, 10, and 17, I believe I marked 2 verses there, that kind of indicated where Jacob was going. Now Jacob, as soon as he saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, Jacob came near, rolled the stone from the well mouth, watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and wept aloud. And then when it says he saw her, right when he sees her, okay, it's also a crazy story. Right when he sees her, he comes and waters the flock, helps her and stuff, and then goes and kisses her. Yeah, I mean, I guess what can you do? So he really wants her. I mean, from the start, that's what he wants. He's determined to get what he wants. And up to this point, he seems like he has gotten what he wants. He got the birthright, he got the blessing. Now he goes here, he's like, I'm going to get the daughter, even though that's not necessarily the way they're supposed to do it. But he gets cheated, so he ends up with both. He's like, okay, kind of still got the one, but him wanting the one is causing some problems. So it's just causing problems. Now, I'll just kind of mention some of these episodes to here. A few of the episodes, because we're not going to cover all of them. But there's one episode in particular with this back and forth with the wives where Rachel says to Jacob to go into their servant. That should sound familiar. Go have a son through the servant because I can't give you kids because I'm barren. Yeah, wonder why. But like go have one with the servant. Again, this should sound familiar. Yeah, Abraham, Sarah telling Abraham, go get a servant through. Whenever they can't get children, it's like, just go take the servant and do it. It's like, I don't know. So some of these things I just have to laugh about because what else am I supposed to do? But he does that, and again, you kind of get the sense of, okay, the patriarchs are doing the same thing, trying to get children through other means. But it gets different episode, kind of just as bad. One time, Rachel basically sells Jacob. Leah, one of her sons, catches these mandrakes. If you don't know what that is, it's some precious plant, I suppose. That's what I found. I don't exactly know why it was so significant. I looked it up, precious plant. Okay, whatever. So this plant, okay, so the son takes it, and Rachel's like, I want that plant. And he's like, well, no, my son caught this. You're going to steal my husband too? He's like, fine, I'll let the husband sleep with you for a night, and then I'll give then you give me the plant. I'm like, okay, she agrees to it. So when Jacob gets back, he's just told, oh, you're with me tonight. So that's what happens, and God listens to her. They have a few more sons. Now, there's something interesting. All this, again, dramatic stuff is going on. Greek Greek tragedy and drama has nothing on this. This is straight here. But with all this stuff going on, a phrase that keeps being repeated is God listened to them and bore them sons. God is still listening. Okay, like even though there's all this drama and conflict back and forth, they're starting to understand some things. They're seeing that God is still listening to them. Even when like God later listens, he says God listened to Rachel and gave her a son. So even with all this, God is still the one behind this, blessing them, making them prosperous. He's slowly building Jacob's family and Jacob's status by that means. Like he's starting to build this family that's going to eventually lead to the nation, and then the nation to the Messiah through the nation. So he's slowly building this picture. It's almost even underneath all this sort of drama here. And so you still have that going on. Now, a time has passed. He gets to the point where, all this has happened. He's built his own family. He wants to go back to his own land, okay? So all this stuff has happened. He wants to go back to his own land. It's been a while. He's going to return. Laban offers to pay him. He's kind of skeptical because last time he offered to pay him his wages, he kind of tricked him. So, but he reminds him of his service. He's like, I've served you faithfully all these years, so I guess if you're going to give me something, let me pass through your flocks. Let me take all the speckled and mottled and whatever. So he's going to take this, like all the spotted sheep and stuff like that. But Laban tries to deceive him again. Now God ensures that he gets what he wants. So he tries to trick him and tries to remove all of them. But God, there's this weird, I don't know if ritual, I guess where he puts these poplar trees and they all mate and then they produce spotted, speckled. We were later revealed in a dream that was the angels, God's design to do that he kept Jacob prosperous and prevented Laban from cheating him out of this, and God did that. But that's what happens. So in this narrative, the sons of Laban, they come around and they're like, okay, our father, we don't like you anymore. You keep taking from our father. No, it's the opposite, but no. So now the sons are involved. They're getting on Jacob, and he's like, okay, great, just more and more. Just pile it on. But God reveals he's going to bring him back. He really is going to bring him back. So go back to chapter, 31. 31, verse 3. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to your land and to your fathers and to your kindred, and I will be with you. So he called them, Rachel and Leah, the field where his flock was, said to them, I see your father does not regard with me with favor as he did before, but the God of my father has been with me. I've served your father with all my strength. Your father has cheated me, changed my wages 10 times. So I guess he's done it a bunch of other times that we don't even have mentioned here, 10 times. So 8 other times. But God did not permit him to harm me. If he said the spotted shall be your wages, then all the flock bore spotted. And if he said the striped shall be your wages, then the flock bore striped. Thus God has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. In the breeding season of the flock, I lifted my eyes, saw in a dream that the goats mated with the flock, with stripes spotted and mottled. Then the angel of God said to me in dream, Jacob, and he said, here I am. He said, lift up your eyes, see all the goats made with the flock, and stripe, for I've seen all Laban's doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar, where he started his journey. I am that same God. That's significant. We don't necessarily think this way. Again, their understanding of God is still somewhat limited based on what they have revealed. They're not working with a Bible, okay? So they're still trying to understand who God is, how he works in the world, okay? We're talking about a great distance between when things worked in the creation. I don't think when he reveals himself to Moses in the Exodus, he now reveals himself saying, you've known me by this, but here's who I actually am. I'm the king of the earth. I can do all these things. So again, we're working with someone who doesn't have that full understanding. But he says, I'm the God at Bethel. I appeared to you at the first. You made a vow to me. Now go back to the land, return to the land. So Rachel and Leah answered, this is verse 14, 31:14. Is there any portion or inheritance left to us in our father's house? Aren't we regarded to him by as foreigners? He sold us, and he's devoured our money. So all the wealth God has taken from our father belongs to us and to our children. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do. Even the wives are on this plan. Like, there was some drama there with all the, does he love me? But they don't want to stay with their father. I think even they know, it's like, no, we need to get out of here, okay? Laban, not the place to say. So they go. They head on their way. Laban chases after them. It's not so surprising, chases after them. So he gets to Jacob, and he gets to him, and he's like, okay, where's my household gods? That's what I need to know about, my idols, where they are. And why do you run away? Why didn't you kiss me goodbye? I'm like, yeah, I wonder why, cheated him a bunch of times. But he's like, okay, I'm sorry, I ran from fear, okay. So again, a little bit Jacob in here, running from fear, trying to escape situations, but trying to scheme wherever he can. So You sort of feel like Jacob might still be using this, even though God blessed him with it, that he's still kind of, I'm going to do what I can to get away and to still get what I can. And Laban's kind of doing the same thing. But Laban's angry. He's finally, Jacob just says to him, he's like, what is the deal? Like, I've served you faithfully for 20 years. I've endured elements like the heat and the cold and the lack of sleep, all the cheating that you did to me. And if God hadn't protected me, I would have been empty. I would have been without anything. But God's been with me, like through that whole thing. Like, even though you tried to cheat me so many times, he's like, God was still with me. It's like, that's the only reason. So he's like, okay, whatever, since God warned me not to harm you, I won't harm you. So let's just make a covenant and I'll go on my way. And so he goes. Okay, so Laban's all done with. But all the things that happened with Jacob, this is really significant. It's been 20 years. He's been cheated so many times. He just mentioned all of this. You're starting to see Jacob's heart and the things that he says. And this is, I think, where we start to meet this crossroads. Chapter 32, verses 9 through 12. Okay? He's on his way, and Jacob says, "O God of my father Abraham, God of my fathers Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, return to your country and your kindred that I may do you good." Again, remember the last thing he said to this God. If you keep and do these things for me, then I'll offer a tithe. Now listen to what he says. I'm not worthy of the least of all the deeds of steadfast love and the faithfulness you've shown to your servant. For with only my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become two camps. Please deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him that he may come and attack me, the mothers with the children. But you said, I will surely do you good and make your offspring as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. Finally, Jacob is starting to see the picture, and this is going to come in multiple stages too. I'm not worthy. All the things that you've done, I've been cheating and scheming my ways, struggling with man in all these ways to get what I want, and you've been faithful to me. And no more lie, 20 years. He fought with his wives. There's problems with his sons. There's problems with his family. The family that he left, his father died, and he had tricked him. Esau, last we know, wants to kill him. And then Laban, the one he was with, he doesn't like him. Like, all this stuff just going on around him. He's like, I'm not worthy. And he's like, but please, I don't want things to go bad with Esau. I have to go back, but I don't want him to kill me. Just rescue me, please. And here's where we're brought. Just before Jacob is kind of getting to that scenario, he wrestles with a man. The same night, chapter 32, 22 through 30, and we are going to finish this in 5 minutes. Trust me. I know where I'm going. I'm watching the time. I've been watching the whole time. Actually, you've seen my eyes flicking up there. I know. I see it. Okay? So it won't be an Edwin or Andrew sermon. I got you. Okay. So the same night, he arose. He took his 2 wives, his female servants, 11 children, crossed the ford. And Jacob was left alone. Verse 24. A man wrestled with him to the breaking of day, and when the man saw he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket. Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, let me go, for the day is broken. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. Then he said, no longer shall your name be Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men and have prevailed. Then Jacob said to him, please tell me your name. But he said, why did you ask for my name? And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the place the name Peniel, for I have seen face to face, and my life has been delivered. Now this should sound a little bit familiar too, where he struggles and he gets this blessing from someone else, and he's determined to get that blessing. But now he's come face to face with God. Jacob has some problems, and the means by which he does things is sort of questionable. But he is struggling with God. He understands still. I think he gets a sense of who this guy is, and he's like, I know what I need. Now he's not struggling to cheat and deceive and trying to get this, but he's actually understanding, I really need blessing. I need that protection. I need you. I really do rely on you. I'm not worthy, but this is what I need. I understand that. I'm not going to cheat for it, but I'm asking that you give me a blessing. That's what I think is going on here. Okay? Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe he's still following some of his old ways. But either way, we've started to see how he's depending on God. And he wrestles with God. And when he finally meets Esau, it is beautiful. Chapter 33, 1 through 4. Jacob lifted up his eyes and saw, behold, Esau was coming, 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah and Rachel, the 2 servants. He put the servants with the children in the rear, then Leah with her children, Rachel and Joseph, last of all. And he himself went to meet them, bowing himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. But Esau ran to him, embraced him, fell on his neck, and kissed him, and they wept. And there's this whole dialogue. He says, I've come to find favor in your sight. I just wanted to see you. And Esau's like, I forgive you. I'm not mad at you. What are these children? He's like, these are the people God has blessed me with. And he says, I have enough, my brother. Keep with it yourself. He wants to give him a gift. He's like, no, you're good. He's like, but please accept my blessing. So he accepts it. But there's a specific verse, and he says, see if I can find this, because I didn't mark it down. The one time I don't mark it down. I think it's verse 10. Yes, verse 10, yes. Jacob said, no, please, if I have found favor in your sight, accept this present, for I have seen your face, which is like seeing the face of God. And you accepted me. Now, this just happened previously. He just said back when he wrestled the man, I have seen the face of God and yet been allowed to live. He sees in Esau this same struggle with God. That it's like I've seen God, that I've seen all the things involved with this struggle. This man who could have done to me great harm, and yet I found this reconciliation not only with God, but with my brother. So he goes back to Bethel. He returns to the place. He makes an altar. He vows to put away the foreign gods. Remember the household gods Rachel took? Yeah, he's putting them away. His name has been changed to Israel. He's told, you're going to be fruitful, you're going to multiply. I'm going to bring this creation back to you again, this blessing of creation to be fruitful and multiply. He's like, that's going to happen to you, Jacob. Now, there's some other stories that kind of happen in Jacob, losing Joseph, that whole thing. And eventually, he even comes back around to where Jacob comes and blesses the sons. And that's the verse that actually brings us to Hebrews 11, verse 21. I'm going to read that quickly, and then we'll close. Hebrews 11, verse 21. By faith, Jacob, when dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph, bowing in worship over the head of his staff. And just this last thing I'll say about that is, at the end of his life, after all the struggle, I think he's learned something. I think he's understood something. He's finally come to that point that where he's at the end of his life, he's looking back, he said to the Pharaoh, my days have been few and evil. He has some regrets. He's like, this was a hard life. But he sees in this a moment. This is a moment of faith for him because he looks at what's happening. He's in Egypt. The two sons of Joseph are Egyptian. In some ways, Joseph has become somewhat Egyptian-like, and there's been this fraught relationship with all the brothers, and he doesn't know how it's going to end, but he asks them two things. One, don't kill them, like restore this relationship. But two, he's like, I'm going to bless them. This is going to be a legacy, and I'm looking forward to what God has. I understand God has something bigger in store. I'm looking to that. So this Jacob, his legacy isn't one of strength or simple faith, but of a man who has struggled to gain and get through every means possible, every human means, struggling with father, brother, wife, son, and with God. And through his struggle, he has become a man of great trust in God, who has been with him and he believes will be with his sons and with all people, the nation. He's looking forward to that. That's the faith he has. So it might have taken 20 years of cheating, conflict with everyone to realize this, but in spite of all this, God has been with him, he's protected him, and he's blessed him and his family, even the people who cheated him. And that is what our lives are. We're like Jacob. The struggle, we finally realize God is the one who is faithful. So we might not always feel like Abraham. I think I can relate to Jacob a little bit more. But he's a hero of faith. Because even though he went through all this, even though all this cheating, he finally found God. And when he did, he held on to him, he had faith, and he died in that faith. Thank you.